Today I want to share a recent interview we did with Liz Wilcox of the Virtual Campgrounds. Liz, along with her husband and young daughter, have been traveling full-time in an RV for about a year. Okay, so why are you and your family, Ed, your husband and your daughter, living full-time in an RV?
That's a really fun story. So my husband was in the Army. He was an air traffic controller, and he deployed for about 12 months when my daughter was 6 months old, and being apart was really, really hard. When he came back, we ended up moving from New York to Alabama, and we were buying a house. The deal fell through, and my husband joked, "Oh, everyone in Alabama lives in a camper. Let's just buy one." And because he had been gone, the majority of our child's life, I had really downsized. I always considered myself a minimalist, but when I had my daughter, I really clung to that. I didn't want any
Mhm.
clutter. And so I really said, okay, well, that actually sounds like a great idea. I didn't want a house that was over 1,000 square feet anyway. And I thought, 200 square feet sounds amazing, right? Normal stuff, right? And so I stayed in a camper at an Airbnb type of situation on the way from New York to Alabama. It was just my child and me. And I thought, this actually, I think I could do this. It was an older camper. And I thought, I'm sure in 20, 30 years, they've come up with some, advancements in the camper department. Let's go looking. And so we went looking, and we said, yeah, let's do this. So we kind of made the commitment. We were staying in a hotel for about 8 days. We found a camper on the side of the road. It was a big giant fifth wheel, and we both walked in and we said, this is where it's at. And we bought it the next day. Not your typical, RV story, but so we lived in it for about a year, maybe 15 months before we hit the road. But as we were living in it, you go on YouTube, you go on Google, and you can find, all these full-time RVers, when you're looking for tips. And I thought, oh my gosh, this thing moves. Ed, let's move it. This sounds so awesome. And
Right.
we said, okay, well, maybe we'll, move it as we move around the country doing the Army lifestyle. And then, I really kind of caught the entrepreneur bug, and my husband didn't want to be, he didn't want to be deployed again. That was really hard, like I said before. And
Right.
so we said yes to the idea. I started my website, the Virtual Campground, and within about a year, we hit the road. So to make a really short story long, that's how we got on the road today. Basically, we just wanted to be together. We were tired of being apart. We got married for a reason. We had a child for a reason, to be
Right.
together, to be a family. So
Hmm.
we decided this was the way to go.
Well, it seems like a lot of people today, especially the younger generation of the millennials, seem to be, ditching the traditional sticks and bricks house. And they've never been camping before, but they go out and they'll buy an RV and hit the road full time and create a business. And it seems, like there's a lot of younger people now because of the internet.
Yes, I will say it did. That's funny that you mentioned the internet. So when we were thinking, yes, let's buy the camper, we went looking, we said, wow, these fifth wheels are amazing, right? I turned to the internet. I said, well, who does this? Can I do this? Is this crazy? And of course, I found YouTube channels like Less Junk, More Journey. They had one child, and that really resonated with me because I only have one child. And I said, oh, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And that was a few years ago, right? So they were just, they were about a year into their YouTube channel. So I kind of watched their evolution, and I said, this seems plausible. And then I found some other YouTubers and bloggers, and yeah, it really helped boost my confidence. I feel like if I didn't have um, those resources, those family stories, that I might have been a lot more hesitant. So the internet, yeah, has definitely given people, I guess it's really empowered people to really do what they want, because it's easy to go online and say, oh, well, this person's doing it and they're just an average Joe. I can do it too. So
Right.
the internet really has enabled people to really, you know, take their dreams wherever they want to go, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Now you can see how Let's Junk More Journey will handle pregnancy on the road and then a second baby because she's, their other one, I think you said March.
Yeah, they
She's
posted on
due.
Facebook. Yep.
Yeah, I
Right.
just saw that. Congrats, the
Yeah,
Mosses. That's so awesome.
they've been trying for real hard, so it's a happy time for them.
Yeah, we're excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, we started thinking about going full timing probably about 15 years ago. We were down at Mammoth Caves with a pop-up camper, and there was a camp host down there and a bounder, Class A, and we got to talking to them, and they were telling us about this full-time RVing thing, and it got us thinking about it, at that time.
Totally.
And then we ran into some more when we seasonaled at a campgrounds up here, and ran into them, met and talked with them some. And so I probably have a half dozen books by people from back then that wrote about the life. But
Right.
Tina has a type 1 diabetes, and
Okay.
she's on an insulin pump now, which has actually been great for her because she hasn't had any complications. So our goal was for me to work until I could retire with some health benefits because of her diabetes. So that's why we've kind of been delayed in getting started. But we've done research. We went to the RV shows. We went to the Pennsylvania one when it was still in Harrisburg before
Oh,
they
wow.
did the Hershey, looking at big fifth wheels and Excels and different things. So we've been
Done our research.
yeah, we've done quite a bit of research over the years.
Yeah, you've been in the game.
But with the internet and everybody doing videos and stuff, it's helping us update a lot of stuff because the internet was just dial up back then when you talked to people and they had to go
Right.
to the campground office and plug their computer in, and so things are rapidly changing now.
And campers have come a long way. They've made a lot of good improvements in them.
Yeah, since the early 2000s. So
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that story I told you about the Airbnb, that was a camper that was from the 80s, I believe, maybe the late 90s. And so I said, okay, well, if this thing's, 20, 30 years old, I can only imagine how awesome they are nowadays. So
yeah,
let's go look at
yeah,
them. Yeah,
right.
I mean, even in the last 5 years, you look at my camper is 10 years old, and I go, to a camper like at a show or something, and they're just, yeah, they're completely different, and they're finally starting to look different and be a little more functional. And so, yeah, the industry is definitely finally starting to take note that, people are opting into this lifestyle for the long term.
So since you guys lived in your fifth wheel for at least a year in one place while he was finishing up, his duty,
Right.
what changes and what things have you come across now that you're traveling more often and you're not staying in one location? What difference have you seen? Because we did a couple test runs. One, we were seasonal campers, so we told our teenage kids at the time, just stay at the house. We're going to stay out here and we can go to work and come back and forth from our seasonal camper. We stayed
Right.
for 30 days ourselves in a travel trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And just going back and forth to work, letting the kids take care of the house. And then a couple of years ago, we remodeled half of our house. And so we decided we would just take the camper, go put it at a campsite for a month, because that's what the contractor said it would take. And we just, cleared half the house out and gave them a key because we knew them. And we lived out at the camper for 30 days then. And so I'm wondering what's the differences that you might have seen between the two lifestyles.
Yeah. So I always joked, when I started my website, we were stationary RVers. And so I had to, how can I make my website interesting when the RV doesn't move, right? And so basically
Right.
so I started realizing, okay, number one, I live in a box. That's hilarious, right? My husband has a job that is stable, has those health benefits, a great pension. Okay, we're quitting that. That's hilarious. And so I just started noticing that stationary RVing was basically all the cons of RVing without any of the benefits. So it was, we had to deal with insane ants in the rig. We had to deal with, moisture. We had to deal with the black tank. All of these things, that comes with RVing, but usually people say, oh, it's all worth it because at the end of the day, I'm headed to the Grand Canyon. Isn't that great? And for me, it was like, okay, well, no, I'm not going to the Grand Canyon. I'm not going to San Diego, none of these amazing places. I'm just here in, what do they call it? The heart of Dixie, Alabama, sweating my butt off or freezing in the winter. And so stationary RVing really isn't for the faint of heart. You really have to, I guess, like I mentioned earlier in the interview, really have a love for small RVing, or I'm sorry, small space, being outside, wanting to be with your family, because that was the biggest difference that I noticed going from a house to the RV, that you were with your family 24/7, right? If my husband and I are in an argument, we better solve it right now because there are no doors to slam except the bathroom door, and I don't want to be trapped in there, right? So you really had to work it out. And so then when we started traveling, I thought, oh, we've got this. We've been living in an RV for 15 months. Like I said, the joke was always, oh, this is all the cons of RVing. It's going to be so awesome now. And of course, as life always shows us, that's not true. It took a lot of different, it took on a lot of different problems. Not that we couldn't overcome them, but traveling can be very stressful. We bought this new to us rig because we wanted a motorhome to travel, to be more mobile. And we realized, we can't travel 300-400 miles in a day like you can in a car. So especially with a toddler. So that was growing pains, realizing how far should we go in a day. And then also, we're not retired. So we both have to work. My husband's an RV tech. I run my website, the Virtual Campground, and do a few different things in that. So sometimes you get to this awesome place and you realize, oh, wait, I scheduled 3 meetings in the next 2 days. We're not going to be able to do anything. Maybe we should extend. Oh, wait, we also said we were going to go to this place. So it's just traveling has taught us that we need to give it a little more forethought. My husband and I are both not planners. So we've had to, over the months realize we need to sit down before we leave and figure out where we're going to go, where we're going to stop, where the gas stations are, things like that. But yeah, we still love it. It's still awesome. We got to visit so much family this summer, visiting my brother in Michigan, his family in Connecticut. We got to go to Cape Cod. We visited a place in Tennessee that we both really liked, things like that. So it still is, of course, we wouldn't still be in the RV if we didn't love it, but it definitely took on some new challenges for sure. And travel planning, I think, was the number one, I guess, source of friction in our marriage. And even for our daughter, because she's 3 years old. And so it took about, we realized she can't go more than 3 days of travel without having to stop for a week or so. She gets, obviously, who wants to sit in a car seat for 6 hours at a time? Can you imagine being strapped like this with the, and saying, oh, we're almost there. We're almost there. So, travel one. Exactly. So, after 3 days of travel is our max, and then we stop for a week or two, sometimes longer, so she can kind of settle in, play. I don't want my child spending her life in a car seat. So that was another adjustment.
Too, when you're first starting out, you have to find out what works for you. Are you one of those people who can travel many days and then stop for a while? Or you you travel 3 days, stop for a week or so, so you got to find out what works for your family.
Right. Yeah. I know other families, they'll stay in one place for 6 weeks. Other families are on the go every 8 days. So yeah, it's just those learning curves, so to speak, that
Right.
you have to figure out for your
Right.
family.
Now we're the opposite of you. We're planners. You know, we've got things planned out of when we want to hit the road, and we're planning what kind of, you know, unit we want to get, and where, you know, we got a friend at church, and she always tells everybody, if you want to get together with Brian and Tina, you got to call them way ahead because they plan stuff ahead. You know, so it's always check our calendar.
That's awesome.
But in a full-time aspect, could that be a hindrance to someone like us? Would we need to relax that a little bit and not always plan every single detail?
Right. Yeah, I think it's definitely, you know, the word balance is heavy on everyone's mind when you RV. You know, it's always a balance between planning too far ahead and not planning at all, right? So, you know, because RVing, there's always going to be things that go wrong. We had, um, we broke down on the side of the road 3 times in, I think, like 30 or 40 days. And of course, our travel plans at that point, you know, were squashed. We're not going to get to this place tonight. It's going to take us an extra week to get there, things like that. And so we
Right.
had to, you know, like let go of those plans and say, okay, well, right now this is where we have to be, and this is what we have to do to get the rig fixed. You know, this is where the money has to go now. We're not going to be able to do XYZ when we get there, right? So I think it's just a balance. And of course, from my perspective, I say having a plan is better than not having a plan from my personal experience. Um,
Better to
yeah,
cancel a reservation than show up and they don't have room for you.
right. Yeah, that happens sometimes too. And you have to be able to adjust. And I know during the 4th of July, the campground we were staying at was overbooked. And there were some people that were kind of, you know, just parked and I guess like boondocking on the campground, waiting for the next person to leave or whatever. And of
Wow.
course they were, you know, they were terribly upset. You know, they had made reservations
Yeah.
and, you know, the system or whatever took the reservations. But you have to realize sometimes, you know, you are camping, these are campgrounds, sometimes the systems are old, or you get it on the phone and, you know, Joe in the morning didn't talk to Sue at night and that
Right.
site was actually sold, you know, or booked, whatever you want to say. So you definitely have to have that go with the flow, be open to surprises, I guess would be my good piece of advice.
Okay,
And I
good.
guess learn not to let them ruin your life, you know, because like everybody says, life happens whether you're in a sticks or bricks or a trailer. Things are going to
Right.
happen that kind of throw you off kilter, and you just need to learn to deal with those and make the best of the situation and go on.
Yeah, you're so right.
You were mentioning your daughter. So what have been some of the challenges or some advice maybe for some people that have young kids that would want to travel full time in their RV that you've ran into?
Yeah, I think the biggest piece of advice would be to find community, find other families that are doing it, talk to them, you know, befriend them. I think if I didn't have friends before I hit the road, I probably wouldn't have done it, right? You know, like you guys, you know, you're talking to me online. I'm sure you're talking to other people, and that helps you kind of stay connected to the dream. I
Right.
think with families, you have to do that times 10 because you have a lot of people to think about. And yeah, if I wouldn't have seen other families, if I wouldn't have gotten to know, you know, Nathan and Marissa, some other people, I know Full Time Families is a wonderful organization that kind of is a hub for other families that want to hit the road and have done so. If I wouldn't have had that community, I probably would have backed out.
Hmm.
And now that we're on the road, having that community also keeps us going. And also, you have to listen to your kids. You know, my child, you know, she's only 3, she'll be 4 very soon, but you know, it just makes life easier if you listen to them. I think that's the same as in a house, right? If you hear what they're saying, Mom, I got to get out of this car seat right now, you know, if you ignore that, there's going to be hell to pay later, right? But if I just listen and say, okay, well, let's pull over for an hour, staying flexible on those travel days, then things are much nicer. And in subsequent days, like when we were first traveling, it was, no, we've got to get to this place. My husband was in the military, so he's used to, this is the plan.
Rigid.
If you don't hit the plan, then you die or whatever, right? In his head. And
Yeah.
so we would push, and then my child would be upset, and then I'm upset, and Ed's upset, things like that. So you really have to learn to listen to your kids. And I think my situation is a little unique, as we only have one child. I only want one child. That she does get lonely on the road, so having that community again is really important. And finding campgrounds with kids. There's lots of campgrounds that have things. I guess they're called like a kid tasks. If you have more than 2 people, or if you have people under the age of 18, it costs extra. I tend to avoid those campgrounds, as there's probably not a lot of kids. And number 2, the people there probably don't want the children there. That's why they're, charging extra. So staying away from campgrounds like that, doing a little planning ahead, finding campgrounds with playgrounds, pools, community centers,
Right.
things like that, that you can tell cater more to families is really important.
Good. So, how has Ed's RV tech business going?
It's going pretty well. It ebbs and flows. I think just the nature of travel. I think, sometimes we go to places and no one else is there, and we say, well, okay, I guess we're not going to make any money here, right? Some parks don't allow you to put up a sign. We have a sign, right? Of course, Ed's RV Repair. I joke that we're going to get the whole RV wrapped, so they can't deny us. It's just part of our RV, right? But right now we're actually in Alabama, where we launched, where I was telling the story about the fifth wheel. We're here for 3 months because we realized this is a place that doesn't have a lot of RV techs, and there's a lot of people coming from, Michigan, Wisconsin, things like that, all the way down to Florida, and this town goes straight through. So there's a lot of people stopping in for a couple weeks, before it gets cold and going on. So we've actually been doing really well here, and we'll be here, I guess, until about January, and then we'll reevaluate and go somewhere where the RVs are again. So we're just realizing and noticing, if we go to popular places, follow the weather like everyone else, then it does really well. And I have some friends that are in the same school as Ed went to now, and I tell them, if you're a couple, as long as one of you isn't afraid to go out, to the community center, to walk around and talk to people and say, oh yeah, I'm an RV tech, or my husband's an RV tech, or whatever, there's always someone that goes like this, right? Their eyes get this big and they say, oh my gosh, can you come inside right now? So as long as, if you're thinking of doing the RV tech, or, your husband or your wife, whoever, as long as there's just one person that's willing to chit chat with people, then I think you're golden, because of course in RV life, something always goes wrong, and, you need someone to fix it. And what a blessing it is when you find someone in your campground.
Yeah, there's a shortage of the RV techs too now, since the RV industry is booming. So that's probably a good field to get into.
Yeah, you're so right. I think there was, I don't know, don't quote me, but I think there was something like almost 500,000 new RVs created last year, or something insane. Yeah, it was like an insane number. And, but RV techs, that profession isn't growing that much. But Ed went to a great school. It's called RV Service Academy. It's in Palmetto, Florida, and it's actually a 10-week program. It's not one of those, you do it online or you go for one weekend. So it went really, really in depth, and he loved it. And, even walking around the campground, getting phone calls, whatever, he's always been able to fix something. So now that we're moving a little more slowly, the business has started to pick up.
Has he thought also about maybe doing the RV inspections as a side shoot off of the repair tech part of it, because it kind of would go together?
Yeah, we've thought about that. his only hesitation, and I guess I don't know if this is valid or not, is, you know, he could do the RV inspection and then give them a list, you know, of things he could fix, which of course sounds amazing. But I think the way that we're traveling, it would be hard to build trust. So people might say, oh, well, you're just, you know, you're just telling me that because you also want to fix my rig. And I mean, to me, I don't think that, but that's what Ed thinks. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I've looked at the inspection thing, and for myself possibly down the road, and you know, there's a couple of websites out there that you can get on. So, and they say the full-time RVers it works for, because when you move, you can change your location of where you're at on the website.
Oh, okay.
The other thing is I could go into it and say, you know, here's a list of things that need fixed. You got my number. If you're interested in me, you know, fixing any of this, give me a call. Otherwise, that's fine. Here's the inspection, you know, and you kind of, you just don't put any pressure on them. You just let them know, hey, I'm available right now if you want it, but I'm going to be moving at this time. But, you know, they may want to just, you know, take care of it by some local dealer that they know or two. But, you know, there's always that option. But I just thought they kind of go hand in hand a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too. And of course, you know, we did a lot of traveling this summer, and it was a lot of growing pains, so to speak. So I think now that we're settled a little bit, business is good. Our overall plan is to kind of be stationary or only be moving every few months for half of the year. And so Ed can just work. And then the other half of the year, we can just travel and not stress about him having to work. You know, of course, I have my business and I'm obsessed with it, so I don't think I could take 6 months off. But that way we just both don't have to work as much. We can enjoy our travels. You know, my family says semi-retired, but, you know, I just say work half the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just work half the year.
If you took 6 months off, we'd all send you an email. Where you at, Liz? We miss your news.
Yeah, exactly. That's so funny.
Thank you, Liz, for chatting with us about your experiences on the road. I will leave a link to Liz's website in the description below so that you can check it out. And thank you all for watching this video. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. And if you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comment section below.